Okay. Okay, Baruch Hashem, welcome everybody to the class and live in person and in the internet world. We are learning the Parsha of HaBracha because we have to learn. A couple of reasons. First of all, tonight is Hoshana Rabbah. It's a very special custom to stay up and late and learn as much as you can. Certainly, there's different customs about how to do it, what to learn, but there's an entire tikkun of things you're supposed to that people say you're supposed to read. One of the things included in the Tikkun is the entire book of Devarim. Yeah, the whole entire mission, the whole Devarim. So part of all of Devarim is this Parsha because it is the end of Sefer Devarim, and we're going to be celebrating the conclusion, the big Siyum. You thought Siyum of Shas was big. This is big. We're celebrating the end of learning the entire Torah from Bereshit all the way up to here. And we celebrate that by learning and by dancing, by singing. Some people do it by drinking, but that's not at all brought down in halacha. I'm not going to go. No. It's Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah that we're going to celebrate. Right. So there's all right. So yeah. I see. Yeah. So there are several times during the year that there's a custom to stay up all night. Hoshana Rabbah is one. Shavuos is another. When a person has a baby boy, he's supposed to stay up all night the day before the bris. The night before the bris, obviously. The moil should not. We want him to be able to focus. All right. Anyway. No whoopsies. All right, so that's there are different ancient customs about this concept of staying up all night, learning all night. Some people did this kind of regularly on a weekly basis. They would stay up all night and learn. I've heard that there's college students who do this sometimes. So I've heard. How would I know?
They're doing Sefer Devarim.
They're learning something that's in Sefer Devarim almost for sure. All nighters. That's why Coca-Cola has a new coffee flavor. All right, so yeah, let's try it. Anyway, quite good, and we'll definitely stay. You'll definitely be able to stay up. All right, so weiter. The HaBracha is the last sefer in the Torah. It is the last parsha in the Torah. It is when Moshe Rabbeinu actually takes leave of the Jewish people. He passes away in this week's parsha. And what Shabbat do we read this parsha on? Trick question. It's not. It's a trick question. There's right.
We never learn the
right. We hardly ever learn it. It's a shame because it's such a big, busy time. But what you're supposed to learn, and especially this very beautiful parsha, there's a lot to learn. And we're going to do a deep dive. We're not going to learn too many psukim, but as you'll see, I think we'll learn a lot out of the 4 psukim we're going to focus on. Is going to be a lot. It's not a very long parsha anyway, but there's a lot to say. Let's begin at the beginning. Let me share that somewhere. Here we are. Shared. Okay. Not for you guys. Haha. I think I might have sent out the wrong link for the file. So it's this one over here, the 11th parsha in the 5th book. And there's the last parsha in the last book, and the first pasuk, actually the second pasuk there says, very, very famous idea that I'm sure you've learned about before, but it's worthy of discussion. So the pasuk says, "Vayomar Hashem, Vayomar Hashem Sinai Ba." So this is Vayomar. So Moshe speaking, and he said, "Hashem is Sinai Ba." Hashem came from Sinai. It's already strange because Hashem didn't come from anywhere. Hashem is everywhere. So what do you mean he came from Sinai? V'zarach meseir lamo, v'fia mehar paran ve'asa mervivot kodesh mimino eish dat lamo. So Hashem came from Sinai. He shone. He glittered over them on Seir. He appeared from the mountain of Paran, and then he approached from this place called Rivavot Kodesh. There was lightning flashes, and it flashed at them from his right. H dot. So that's one way to translate H dot is lightning, but also H dot means the fire of knowledge, right? So, which is also weird in the Torah. It's written as one word, H dot, and then we read it as two separate words, H dot, the fire of dot of knowledge. Okay. Anyway, Mimi no, from his right. So very strange pasuk. And so what does it mean that he came from Sinai? It's an interesting question. So it says, let's look at some of the first Rashis on this pasuk. There's actually a few. The second Rashi on this pasuk tells us, V'yatzo likratam shabau lehityatzev mitachtit hahar kichatan. So he came up to them while they were like underneath the mountain, which really means at the base of the mountain, like a chatan, like a groom, hayotzu lekabil pnei kala, like a groom who comes to see the face of the kala. Right. So if you remember, there's the ceremony. I don't know if you've heard of this. There's something called bedekin. Right. It's an ancient custom where the groom is excited to see the face of his wife, make sure it's the right person, picks up the veil, covers the veil, whatever it is. There's different customs.
Forgot to put the veil down.
It doesn't matter. At least it's part of the custom. Likrat halakim. So the Shenemar Likrat halakim, as it says in the pasuk in Shemot 19:7, and so like Moshe brought the people forth to meet Hashem. So Hashem sort of reenacted how he wants us to perform weddings, and maybe we were already performing weddings like that. It could be from other cultures too. I'm not going to get into that, but certainly Hashem wanted to infuse into the giving of the Torah a sort of obvious sense of love. It was a ceremony that was not just a legal document signing. Buying and selling type transaction or something. It was a show of love, and so to do that, Hashem came to the Jewish people just like a groom comes to a bride. So this doesn't, obviously he didn't literally come to them, right? Because he was always there. He wasn't dressed up or anything. He doesn't have a human body, so it means that he made himself felt, and it was an obvious. The Jews felt this love that a kala feels when the groom approaches her under the chuppah or at the bedekin. That same sense is what the Jewish people felt. That's this beautiful pasuk here. All right. V'zerach miseir lamo. He approached from Seir. So what else do we know about Seir? It's a place that's been mentioned earlier in the Torah. Har Seir Esav. Right. So Har Seir was given to Esav. It's Esav's land. So says Rashi, why did he come to the Jewish people from Esav? What does that mean? Shepetach livnei Esav. He first opened up for the people, the sons of Esav, sheikablu et Torah, that they should accept the Torah. He approached them first. It's a famous idea in the Midrash and in the Gemara in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, as we'll see from the Maharal very soon, that the Hashem approached other nations first. He wanted to give them the chance to get the Torah, and they didn't want it. Rashi doesn't really go into great detail, but the very next Rashi tells us when it comes to Har Paran, from this mountain of Paran, same thing. Shahalach Sham, he went over there first before he went to Har Sinai. Livnei Yishmael, sheikabluha v'lo rasu, that they should accept the Torah, and they didn't want. Okay, they said no. So, as you probably may have heard elsewhere, the Guru Aryeh is now going to bring an explanation of this. You've heard of this?
She knows like samurai was big into Guru Aryeh.
Oh, okay. Baruch Hashem. The Maharal. Right. So Yeah, so the Maharal in Gur Aryeh explains. He quotes the Sifrei that is the Midrash that is Rashi's source. Shalach el Esav im Kabbalat Torah, Eshiv Esav Maktiv Ba. What did Esav answer? What's inside? You want to give me a book? Before I buy, I want to know what's inside of it. I'm not just going to buy any old book. I need to hear what's inside. So Amar Lo, it says to him, Lo tirtzach, Lo tigzol. Don't covet, don't steal. Amar Esav, that's a problem. Kol birchato shenit varech va'al HaBracha tiyeh. I have a bracha. My father gave me a bracha. Esav's father, right?
Sounds like a valid response.
Okay, hold on. He did get a bracha. What's the bracha? The bracha is al HaBracha tichya. You're going to live by the sword. You're gonna take stuff. Your people are going to need to use violence sometimes. We know, by the way, historically, the children of Esav have used violence at times. Most of medieval history is wars from one country to another in Europe, which is what we say were the descendants of Esav. So war is a common theme in European history, right? Okay, so you want us to not want things. You want us to not take other people's land. You don't want us to steal things, pillage, cause havoc. What are we going to do with our bracha? Our bracha is a valid bracha. We got a bracha that we're supposed to live by the sword. So H-Shem says, okay, fine. Like Benji said, valid reason. You don't want it. You don't have to take it. It goes to Yishmael. Amar Yishmael, he says to Yishmael, the ancestor of the Arabic people. She kabbalat the Torah, so you should accept the Torah. Amar ma'aktiv ba. What's inside? Same thing. Amar lo tigdov. Thou shalt not steal. Right? That's cute. Because Amar kol bechatav eno rak shehu yeh pera adam. Yado b'kol. I got a bracha. My ancestor got a bracha too. Yishmael got a bracha from Avram that he's going to be a para adam, a wild man, and his hand is going to be in everything. Right? You don't want me to take other people's stuff. How am I supposed to have my hand in everything? That doesn't make sense. Sorry, not interested. All right. So the Gemara goes into other details, other nations that Hashem approached, and because of the short. Let's say it's all the nations, not just these two. Let's say Ammon, Moab, they should have kept the Torah. It says Lotinaf, that didn't work for them. So because remember Ammon and Moab were descendant of Lot and his daughters. So laws of sensual restrictions don't work for them. Sorry, we wouldn't be here today if we follow these laws. It's not going to work for us. So what does Hashem say? Okay, good. You don't want it? I'll give the Jews the chance to accept the Torah. And what did the Jews say? Nasa v'nishma. They didn't say what's in it, what's that. They didn't do a whole Jackie Mason routine. They said, you want to give us a Torah? We will do it, we will listen.
Is it true that if they would have said that there's something Hashem would have said and then they went to it? I heard.
Yeah. So is it
or that?
No. There is the Gemara goes on to say that if they wouldn't have said Nasa v'nishma, Hashem, the Rashi also brings it down in Chumash, actually the next pasuk, that if they wouldn't have accepted, Hashem would have crushed them with the mountain. It says Tachas Sahar. They were under the mountain. Yes. So, yes. There's quite a bit to say about that, but certainly. So, but he says, so why is he going to kind of your question? Why did he go to Esav, Yishmael? Why not just like all the nations? Shar umot nami yamrukach. So it could be that the other nations also would have said the same thing. Also would have said we wouldn't exist today if you had the Torah. Ela al kol uma v'lashon haya machzir v'kar kamar v'zerach esir lamo hafiyah mehar Quran. So it doesn't talk about all the nations. It mentions the Maharal. It says only about that he offered it to Yishmael and Esau. So in other words, in the pasuk itself that Rashi is commenting on, it seems that he only went to Esau and he only went to Yishmael. He didn't go to the other nations. But the Gemara and the Midrash seem to say that he went to the other nations. Ammon, Moab, Kol HaUmah, so all the nations. So what's going on? So the Gemara tells us, so he brings the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, very, very, very beginning of it, literally the second page, to B, right? Or not to be. All right, so it tells us that all the nations were given the Torah. The last of the nations were let's call them the Abrahamic nations, the nations that descended from Abraham. So Esau, Ishmael, those are the last ones who were offered the Torah before the Jews. But until then, all the other nations were also offered the Torah. And by the way, says the Maharal, the reason that they were offered it last was because they were already familiar with the Torah. How are they familiar with the Torah? Exactly. Meaning, what do you mean? Through Abraham? He kept the entire Torah. There's a Gemara in Yuma 28b that says that Abraham kept the entire Torah. Yishmael saw that. Right? So Yishmael taught some of it to his kids. So they were at least familiar with the Torah. If they didn't keep it, they at least they knew about it. Esau saw Yitzchak keeping the Torah. Esau saw Abraham keeping the Torah. Esau knew Abraham, right? So he knew this. He taught this to his children. So that's why they were mentioned last. And finally, Hashem came to the Jewish people because they not only saw that Abraham keeping the Torah, they in some ways kept the Torah all the way through Egypt. So why are Esau and Ishmael mentioned specifically? So he says, I'll just say this outside. You have the source here if you're interested. The reason for mentioning Esau and Ishmael specifically is because each one has a particular midah that the other one doesn't have. See, the fact is, the Torah is for everyone. Here's a big. It's going to surprise you. But there are people today who go off the derech. They say, Judaism's not for me. I see how it fits your life. It's good for you. You like it. Let's agree to disagree on this one. All right, it's for you. The Torah is for you. It's not really for me. They're wrong. I'm going to say this in public. They're wrong. The Torah is for everyone. They found a way, they found some sort of niche outside of the Torah that they think fits them. They think they're happy. It's a big mistake. They're not really happy because they're going to keep doing something else and then something else because it's not actually, their lifestyle choices aren't actually satisfying. Torah is the only thing that satisfies. The only thing that's lacking in Torah is more Torah. And once you learn a little bit of Torah, you're like thirsty for more. You want more. I want more Torah. I want more. You're not thirsty for anything else. You're not interested in drugs and rock and roll. Whatever. That whole life's nothing else really matters. The most important thing for you is Torah. And if one kind of Torah doesn't fit, another kind of Torah. I've heard enough Musar today. I want to learn, Hashkafa. I want to learn Halacha. There's always different kinds of Torah that'll keep your day. Keep your mind entertained, keep your day, keep you from being bored, right? Like little kids are, I'm bored, I want to do this, I'm tired of this. No, we're grown-ups now, right? We don't have, we're not supposed to be getting bored and trying to find some new ways to get high, right? But that's basically what's happening to people who are off the derech. They're constantly looking for new things and new things and new things because they're not actually satisfied with their lifestyle choices.
I like that. Sorry. I like that thing on like they interviewed, my unorthodox life. It's like a series.
Heard of it?
They interviewed like the people, the ideas they went off of their
Mm-hmm.
and then like this wife and like the kids. But they interviewed the kids, and the kids were like, oh, it was so amazing, like that we were able to, eat a cheeseburger. My first time right, and it was like so exciting. And then one of the questions is like, is there anything you miss?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, a lot of times in Judaism you have like the religious is like a purpose, and now I really don't see that there's any purpose to my life.
Slightly different.
Yes, but yeah.
Like that it is
Yeah.
that they're like, okay, I'm gonna try my first cheeseburger. Now I'm gonna try my first like
This,
bacon,
right. So my first this, my first that, and then at some point the firsts run out, unless you're doing something completely crazy and wacky, like your first Tide Pod or whatever. But my first homicide. I'm going to practice my first homicide today. Okay. You've done your share of first, and you're still not satisfied. You still see no purpose to your life, right? That's exactly the point. But that's exactly the thing about so that's what the Maharal is going to say now about Esav and Yishmael. They have certain midot that they thought, because of these midot, the Torah won't fit me. They're wrong, because every midah, it fits into the Torah. You don't have to be you don't have to be the Torah wants people to be like, let's take an example, a midah, generosity, good midah, most people say. Right? Most people think generosity is a good midah. Right? If you ask a regular person on the street, you ask 100 people this question, Family Feud style, you will probably get 100 answers that yes, generosity is a nice thing. So let's say somebody's not generous. Does that mean the Torah doesn't fit them? No. They have to work on themselves, and they realize it. If they're really learning Torah, if they're honest with themselves, they know their own midot. They know what they're generous about, what not. And then they work on it. They force themselves to give tzedakah. They force themselves to be hosts or whatever, to have guests. They force themselves to do something that's against their nature, and that's okay. That's what Yishmael and Esav didn't understand. They could use the Torah. The Torah is available for everybody, for the whole world. That's one of the ways that we're supposed to be fixing the world. All this talk about tikkun olam. It's not about cleaning the beach. Tikkun olam is about teaching the non-Jewish people in the world that the Torah has lessons for them too. Yes, they're not supposed to learn Torah the way we learn Torah. Yes, they're not supposed to like open up a Gemara or whatever. Okay, fine. Kabbalah Center. Yeah, exactly. That's not going to work. But that there's lessons in the Torah that are appropriate for them. That it's going to teach the world to be better and kinder and more peaceful and more generous. Yeah, that's what. All of these liberal ideas and conservative ideas, they all stem from the Torah. All good ideas come from the Torah. So even though they were blessed by Hashem through Abraham, they still refused the Torah. So then the next question he asks is an interesting question, probably something you probably haven't thought of. Why didn't he offer it to Abraham's other children? What do I mean by his other children? So Abraham had, it says from Keturah, he had sons who he sent east. And there's all kinds of talk about how there's connections between ancient Hinduism, Buddhism, and
I always wonder about Native Americans. They're very spiritual, and I don't
that's a whole big separate question. I'm sorry, but yes, Native American. Every group of people you can find spirituality, whether it's a Avodah Zarah spirituality or a godly kedusha-filled spirituality, are two very different things. But yes, spirituality exists amongst all kinds of native peoples all around the world, not just Native Americans, but Native Australians, the Maori, what are they called? They're also very spiritual. Yeah, the Aborigine. Yeah, lots of lots of ancient peoples with lots of ancient customs, very spiritual, very deep, very philosophical, but tummy. Right? The kids, the Maori used to eat people. Okay, and they don't do it anymore, as far as I know. But I saw Whale Rider, very good movie. But otherwise, the Maori people have nice dances and stuff. But they used to be cannibalistic.
When did Hashem decide to put spirituality in?
When did Hashem decide to put spirituality in? The creation of the world. You have to go to the class on Bereshit on Thursday night. What's your question? So spirituality exists.
Like that idea of like people can feel spiritual, but there's no God in their lives. It's just like it's very interesting. Like where is that whole like? Is that from just the idols and the sun and the moon?
So Rambam says, this is again this is more of a voracious question, but Rambam says that it happened from before Noah, in the time of Enoch, that Avodah Zarah came into the world. People confused the power of the things that Hashem created with gods themselves. Right? The sun is a very powerful thing. You didn't really feel it today so much, but the last couple of days, right, when it was very, very hot, if you were sitting in the sukkah, the sun is a very powerful thing. It creates fires. It's very warm. It's very bright, and it's millions of it's miles and miles away from it. It's you're not going to be able to fly a plane there anytime soon, right? And besides all that, it has a huge, powerful magnetic pole that's pulling things closer to it constantly, right? It's only thanks to the power of the bigger planets that are further away from the sun, like Jupiter and Saturn, that Earth wasn't just pulled towards the sun a long time ago. So a lot of amazing facts about the way the universe is created. So all of that can cause a person to say, "Oh, the sun is so powerful; it pulls things, it enlightens things, it heats things. Must be a god." Right? Do you know any other powerful source of all of these things? No, right? Except for the invisible God who created it. Right? So it's much easier to believe in the thing that you see and feel and get something from than the invisible creator that goes by so many different names and you can't picture and doesn't look like a person. And it's philosophically much easier to go from A to B than from A to Z. Right, so that's why there's plenty of spirituality in the world that is mistaken spirituality. Very easy to do, and So again, so why didn't he offer to these people, right? These practitioners of Eastern philosophy, which became, by the way, very popular. You don't know this, maybe. I don't know if you studied this in history, but Eastern philosophy became very popular in America during the hippie movement. In the 1960s, 50s actually started, but 50s, 60s, 70s, all this talk about transcendental meditation and yoga and all this stuff. All of that started around that time because people were learning about it and they're like, wow, this is far out, man. This really makes me feel spiritual, much better than listening to some preacher or some rabbi giving a speech. I'd rather meditate and be one with myself and forget about everything. So all of that is all of that works. It works sometimes, unfortunately, because it's tameh, it's tumah. It's a very powerful source of tumah. It's a real avodah zarah that still exists today. We have somebody in our show you probably heard before say, "Who cares about avodah zarah? Avodah zarah doesn't exist anymore." So yeah, the Gemara says that our taiva for avodah zarah is gone. No, we don't want avodah zarah the way we used to. But that's because we used to want avodah zarah the way people now crave indecent behaviors. The way people, prostitution, pornography, all these other things. The way that human, the way that most people naturally go towards that. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's a yeah. They've what have they done? They've judged. I forget. I saw there was some statistic at the last election. They've judged something like the statistics of hits on the pornographic websites are somehow used to decide how popular certain candidates are. I don't remember. There's like this whole formula that they use now. It's been inculcated. It's been like meshed into normal culture, which is it's supposed to be like abnormal. It's supposed to be something people, if they do it in secret, in private, like they should be embarrassed about it. Now it's like, it's normal. Why? Why? That's like, you know, the wolf in Shrek. Why? So it's yeah. So, but all of that is part and parcel of this whole degeneration into Tuma. So why didn't he offer it to them? It's because there's basically assumed, Hashem assumed that they would refuse it, which they would have, because each nation was basically given the opportunity so that no one would complain that they were not offered the Torah. See, the whole thing that the Gemara in Avodah Zarah tells us is that had the nations not been offered the Torah, had only the Jews been offered the Torah, what would have happened is, at the end of time, when Mashiach comes, the nations of the world would complain, and they're going to complain anyway, says the Gemara. But anyway, the Gemara says, yeah, exactly, yes, perfect time of the year to talk about this. So yes, they're going to complain, they're going to say, hey, it's not fair, the Jewish people have all the mitzvot, they have the Torah, of course they're going to have Mashiach, and they're going to have their own land. How come we don't get that? We want to be rewarded too. We did so many nice things for the Jews, you know. Romans are going to say, "Oh, we built the roads, you know, for the Jews to be able to travel back and forth." So Hashem says, "Yeah, you built the roads, not for the Jews. don't trick yourselves. You know why you built the roads. It wasn't for them. Yeah, they used it. So maybe I'll give you a mitzvah to do." And he gives them the mitzvah of sukkah. Says, "Okay, all the non-Jews in the world, you want to see the reward the Jewish people get from doing mitzvot? I'll give you one mitzvah, sukkah." So what happens? The non-Jews do sukkah. Hashem makes it super hot. I don't know how hot it has to be. He makes it hot. Maybe it was like it was a couple of days ago, or maybe he makes it 100 degrees. I don't know, 120 degrees, whatever it is. It's really hot. The non-Jews get tired of the sukkah. They come out of the sukkah and they kick it. The rabbis ask the question. Right, there's nothing else. They're potter. They're allowed to get out of the sukkah. You're allowed to get out of the sukkah if it's that high. You're not chayav to be in the sukkah if you're so uncomfortable that you would have left your house if it was that hot. If you want to leave your sukkah when it's that hot, that's fine. You're allowed to. So why are we making fun of the Gentiles for doing that? They didn't have to kick it. They didn't have to kick it. Who said kick the sukkah? You don't want to be in it? Get out. Go home. You know, have your water in the house. No problem. But cool down, relax, take a bath. Who said you kick the sukkah? That's disrespect to the mitzvah. We'll talk more about that on the Shmini Atzeret in the drasha. Okay. Anyway, dun. Okay, so let's. We spent almost the entire class on one pasuk. No problem. It was I knew that would happen. That's why I only prepared 4 pasukim. So it's. Like 2 hours worth of material. Guess what he did like 10 minutes of it. Yeah. I hear you. All right.
I was happy with that.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. All right. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So chapter 33, verse 4. 4th pasuk in this parsha. Torah tziva lana Moshe marasha kihilad. Yaakov. How do you know? How long have you known this pasuk? Do you know?
At least 20 years.
At least. So there's a special halacha that when parents have a child, the first pasuk, the first thing that they should teach them to say is this pasuk right here. Torah tziva lana Moshe marasha kihilad Yaakov. Because the first word is Torah. So the first word on your children's lips is the word Torah. Can you imagine? Not mommy, not diaper, not poo poo. No, your baby's first word is Torah. Right? It's a beautiful idea. We had a child. I forget which one it is at this point. Doesn't matter. I wouldn't say in public anyway. But first, one of her first words was challah. Yeah, it's good. It's a good word, right? It's beautiful, right? So, yeah.
Not the worst thing to say.
Not the worst. At least it's the name of a mitzvah. Mitzvah of challah. All right. It's probably because she wanted to eat challah. But anyway, whatever the case may be. Not about right, whatever it is. So it's a beautiful thing. So the question becomes, we're calling Torah so Torah tzivalanu. So the Torah was commanded to us by Moshe, right? Morasha, it's an inheritance, like from the word Yerusha, it's an inheritance to Kehilat Yaakov, to the congregation, the Kehillah of Yaakov. So how is it an inheritance? Are you born knowing Torah? No, you have to learn it. You have to gain it for yourself. And if you somehow were born super brilliant and you can remember everything, does that mean you don't have to learn Torah anymore? No. These are the exact opposite definitions. What I'm saying to you, these rhetorical questions I'm asking you right now, are the exact opposite of something that's a Yerusha, something that's an inheritance. An inheritance means you don't have to work for it. It's yours. You're born with it. And if you don't do anything, you have it anyway. So that's it. That's a Yerusha. That's a Morasha. So how is this an inheritance of the Kehillat of the congregation of Israel? All the Jews together get it. All of us. What's going on? So a lot of questions you could ask on this pasuk. Hopefully you've been asking it your whole lives, and hopefully you've been getting different answers. The Katav Sofer has a beautiful little piece here. By the way, the Katav Sofer is the son of the Chatam Sofer, and also the Rebbe of Yosef Sonnenfeld, Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, who was one of the main, almost like the chief rabbi of Jerusalem back about 100 years ago, a little more. All right, so very important, very influential commentary. And the thing is, I've been quoting him on and off, every once in a while in the last year. Every once in a while, there's different commentary. He's got a lot to say. So on this, he says a very important, very famous idea, and it's worth being famous. Nearly, Amr Chazal says it says in the Gemara in Makot 23b. Makot 23b, Taryag mitzvot natan lanu. So the fact that the Taryag, that 613 mitzvot were given to us, is the gematria of Torah. One slight problem. 613 is not the gematria of Torah. 613, the gematria of Torah is 600. Anybody know? So 200 plus 400 is 600. Plus 5 plus 6. What's 5 plus 6? 11. Not 13. Oh, you can be off by 1. Okay, you're off by 1. You still got, you're still not at 613. You're off by 2. So what's with the other 2? Famous idea. At Har Sinai, back to Har Sinai. What happened at Har Sinai? Hashem gave us the first 2 mitzvot. So the 611 mitzvot were given to us by Moshe. Torah tzivalanu Moshe. Moshe gave us 611. The first 2 came from Hashem. 611 plus 2 is 613. That's the gematria of Torah altogether. But that's not all. That's not all. If you buy now. It's impossible for everybody to do the entire Torah. I can't do the entire Torah. You can't do the entire. No one person can do the entire Torah. Why? Nobody can do all the mitzvot. Kikama mitzvot she'in b'Yisrael she'yeshnu b'kohen. Some mitzvot are only for a kohen. Some mitzvot are specifically not for a Kohen. A Kohen can't do certain mitzvot, like attend a funeral of a resident person, unless whatever. Okay, so there's exceptions. V'chein b'levi, b'melech, mitzvot achirim. Levi has a special mitzvot. You should know these. A king has special mitzvot. Maybe you should know these. No. So a king has special mitzvot, and ela mitkayemed bein kulam shekulam beguf echad. But everybody completes all of the mitzvot together because we are one goof. We are one body. The Jewish people are Kihilat Yaakov. That's how it's a Yerusha for Kihilat Yaakov.
What was the 613 one? Oh, this is Gematria.
Yeah, so 611 is Gematria of Torah. So how does 611? How is that the Torah? We need two more. Those two were given to us by H-Shem himself. Right? He said the first two of the 10 Commandments out loud, right? And the Jewish people are like, no, that's too much for us. We need to hear it through through an intermediary. And then so 611 came from Moshe. Moshe gave Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe. He quotes. He basically says that you should look over there in the beginning of the Sefer of the Shla, Sefer Shnei Luchot Habrit. In the beginning of the book, there the Shla writes about this. V'inektiv Matan Torah. Yeah. So basically, the point is, no one Jew can complete the entire Torah. In all the mitzvot, we complete the Torah together. It's another beautiful reason to celebrate Simchat Torah together, because we completed it together. We do it together. Some mitzvot are not for me. Some mitzvot are not for you. But because you are doing the mitzvot, I'm doing the mitzvot, and he's doing the mitzvot, we all together we were able to complete the 613 mitzvot. Not Bizman Hazeh. Very good. So Bizman Hazeh, because there's no korbanot, and because we're not sure about the mitzvah of challah, this, that, the other thing. So there are certain mitzvot we can't perform even today. And you can say there's sometimes there's certain mitzvot we can't perform except once every 7 years, Shemitah like this year, etc. So that's not the point. The point is when you learn the mitzvot and when you do the mitzvot that you can do, you're doing all the mitzvot.
Are most of the mitzvot we have of the 613 things that we can't do right now?
No.
Oh,
Most of other things we can do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Even like for one individual? Like
No.
you could do majority?
Oh, probably. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to look in the Sefer HaMitzvot, the Rambam. I mean, some of these mitzvot are don't do this. A lot of there's negative commandments. So yeah, it's very nice because I'm not planning murdering anybody. So that's a mitzvah, right? Yeah, finally. Some people call me a tzaddik. They don't have a clue, but at least they're right about this. I didn't plan on murdering anybody yet. So that's look at that. Whew. Finally, something they're right about. But there's a lot of mitzvot like that. Giving tzedakah, a lot of the negative. Don't steal, right? I don't think I've stolen anything recently. So it's haven't tunneled into anybody's house. It's a good thing. No burglary in my past yet. I'm in public here, so I have to be careful what I say. All right, so that's that. Now we're going to skip 20 psukim, and we're going to talk specifically about the tribe of Asher. Why? Because all of the tribes get a bracha now, and some of them are harder to understand than others. Some of them get a little complicated. I don't know how many years I'm going to be giving this class, but I'd like to say something about a different tribe each year. Right? And then maybe over the course of a few years, maybe we'll get all 12. Who knows? No, they all got something, don't worry. But this year I just want to focus on one particular tribe. Asher Amar, and regarding Asher, he said, Baruch Mibanim, he is blessed of all the sons. He Ratzu Echav, he is the Ratzu, he's the most desired of his brothers. V'tovo b'shemen raglo, and he's going to Tovo, right? He's going to dip, right, his feet, and he's going to dip his foot in oil. What is that? What kind of bracha is that? First of all, how did the other brothers feel? Like he's the he's the favorite. Like, I don't know if you know this, but you're not supposed to call anybody the favorite son in front of the other sons, especially. Right? It's kind of embarrassing, and it's going to make somebody jealous. It's not a good idea. So Rav Eli Munk writes in the Call of the Torah. I'll just read the entire thing here. It's in English. He probably wrote it in French. Alas, I don't speak French. Baruch Hashem. This phrase may be interpreted, the most blessed of children in Asher. This phrase may be interpreted in two ways. The first is that Asher will be the most blessed among the sons of Jacob. The second, which is followed by Rashi, citing the Sifri, is that Asher will be blessed with children. So not like he is the most blessed of children. He will be blessed with children.
But how does that make it mean?
They're all going to have children, aren't they? Each tribe, no tribe, dies out from lack of propagation. Right? So, yeah, good question. So,
I don't know.
So
very hard in our class. We all had issues with having children.
Okay, but let's look back in history. All of the tribes have had children. And by the way, Asher, by the time Asher's getting this bracha, Asher's dead. And it's Asher's children getting this bracha. So he definitely had children already.
This is the same bracha given by Yaakov Avinu, just repeated? Or
No, it's a different bracha. It's a different bracha. Sometimes there are certain parallels. I'll give you that. But this is a different bracha. So anyway, Rav Munk continues. However, Rashi is uncertain of the nature of the blessing. Like we're kind of uncertain about it. That is, whether the children will be exceptional in quality, numbers, or health. It's not that he's going to have children. He's going to have a lot of children. Or he'll have not just children, he'll have super healthy children. And they're going to be such tzaddikim, these children. They're going to be, beautiful, amazing, the shamas. Look at these children. That's what the bracha is. It's not he's going to have children, because obviously he's going to have children. He already has children. So quality, number, or health. So he quotes here, Tosfos and Riva are of the opinion that the blessing was of the quantity. In the wilderness, Asher was recorded as having the largest population. That's Numbers 26:47. Ramban points to the specific praises of Asher in the Book of Chronicles. So the Book of Chronicles is Divrei Hayamim, the last book in Tanakh. Right? All these were the children of Asher, heads of families, selected mighty men of valor, chief of the princes, for service in the way they provided a contingent of 26,000 soldiers. That's 1 Chronicles 7:40. So a lot of people, very powerful, very strong, 26,000 soldiers. That's a huge army, especially for those days. Rav Hirsch emphasizes that with the territory rich in minerals, whose earth bears olive trees in abundance, Asher was designated to be the harmonious image of prosperity and family happiness among Jews. You may know that not everybody who has money is happy in their family life. Right? I think I've said this before. I was once walking with a friend, and I saw a beautiful house. I said, and it was in another neighborhood, not here, it's in LA to be specific, but whatever. Anyway, so I saw a beautiful house. I said, "Oh, look at this beautiful house." He says, "Yeah, it looks nice, but you don't know what's going on inside."
Okay, the people or just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he knew the people.
like the 4 top most wealthy people in the world have like divorces and
Yeah.
their children.
Yeah. It's true. So Asher's bracha is that he's going to dip his feet in oil. He's going to be so rich. There's going to be oil everywhere, right? It's going to be French fries for everybody, right? It's so much oil. It's just going to have to squeeze it out of the food, right? Maybe you have to invent paper towels just to get the oil out of the food, right? But his riches would not lead to selfish pleasures, but would serve as a foundation for building up large Jewish families, which are a key source for the spiritual goal of the nation. So he's going to have the kind of children that even though he's rich, even though he's super satisfied with his lot in life, his children are going to stay top-notch children. They're going to grow in a family that they know loves them, and they're not going to be like all these spoiled rich Americans were, my parents didn't love me. All they cared about was work. Yeah. Why do you think they were working? It doesn't matter. My mother didn't spend enough time with me. What do you think she was doing? All of these. So sometimes it's true. Sometimes the parents don't spend enough time with their children. But other times, you have to realize it's not like there has to be a sacrifice. Parents have to do something. Have to be out of the house in order to bring things into the house, work or tzedakah or whatever. There's a very, very difficult balance that young families need to find. And by the way, they have to start, even though it doesn't seem that way, they have to start when they're young. They have to find a balance to how much time they're going to spend at home with the kids, how much time they're going to spend with their communal obligations, work obligations, and things like that. It's there is a reason. This is. I mean, it's going to sound sexist, but I'll say it anyway. This is the reason why women are pater from so many mitzvot that men have to do. Right? Men have to go to shul 3 times a day. Men have to learn Torah morning and night. Men have to do this and that and the other thing. Women don't have to. Why? Not because they can't do it or they wouldn't do it right. It's because we need them to do the most important job. We need somebody to be at home while the men are doing these things that they're obligated to do. It's not just a privilege to do these things. It's also an obligation. And so somebody has to be home. Somebody has to take care of the kids so that the kids know that their parents love them and take care of them. All right. We're going to look at we have about 5 minutes. I hope this is enough time to deal with this. We're going to look at, I don't usually do this. I'm going to tell you some of some of my process in making this class. Usually when I put together the class, when I see an interesting source, and if I have the source at home, or I can find it online easily, that's the stuff I want to teach. I don't want to teach something I don't have the source for. So I saw this beautiful idea from Elchanan Wasserman, H-Shem Yinachem Damim, from his book Kovetz Ma'amarim. And I'm like, I don't have that book. But you know who does? My son. And that's one of the books he brought with him from yeshiva. So I'm like, wow, that's exactly the book I wanted. So and then I had to try to find a particular essay that I want to quote. He found it for me. It was amazing. It was just all hashgacha pratis. It all fit in perfectly together, just so I could bring it now. And it's worth it. It's I have the whole source in the source sheet, the whole very short essay. It's an essay asking the question, how can anybody be like Moshe today? And the problem with that is this pasuk that we have in this week's parsha. The pasuk says, "V'lo kam." So after Moshe dies, "V'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe." There never was a navi. There was never a prophet like Moshe ever again in the Jewish people. Asher yadu Hashem panim el panim, who knew Hashem face to face. Whatever that means. We're not going to get into the details of how he knew Hashem, but let's just to explain it shortly. The commentaries explain that Rambam, amongst others, explains that all of the prophets, and we've said this before, all of the prophets had to get their messages, their visions, through some sort of allegory that they had to interpret, they had to understand. It wasn't always easy. Moshe didn't get allegory. Moshe got the message clear. It was just written out in front of him. He knew exactly what to do. He didn't have to interpret, what do you see in your hand? It's an almond. What does the almond mean? Like, I don't know. It's an almond. And so the other prophets had to do that, right? And they had to dream, and then they saw this dream, and like, what does that mean? Like Moshe, Hashem's like, okay, what does it mean? And like, I don't really know. Can you give me a hint? Does it start with the letter A? And so, and Hashem would have to do it, and that's called an aspaklaria she'ena me'ira, an unclear glass, right? It was like foggy. It was like a foggy window. Moshe was aspaklaria me'ira, completely clear glass, completely clear screen. He was able to see Hashem perfectly. He didn't have to clean his screen. All right, so that was Moshe. But we have a problem because Ketav Rambam Hilchot Teshuva, says Rav Elchanan Wasserman. Now, Rambam writes in Hilchot Teshuva, Shekol Adam Rui Yot Tzadik K'Moshe Rabbeinu. Every human being, every Jew, every male and female, has to work on themselves to the point that they're as righteous as Moshe. Even though the Torah testifies that nobody would ever come like Moshe, it was in terms of his prophecy that no one's going to be like Moshe. But in terms of his righteousness, everyone is obligated to work on themselves to the point that they are as righteous as Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm not a Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, well, you're supposed to be. That's the answer. Right? So his righteousness can be emulated. We can do that. אבל באמת הדבר פשוט מאוד שאי אפשר לשום אדם להגיע במדרגתו של משה רבינו עליו השלום גם בצדקותו. But wait a minute. We can't be as righteous as Moshe. How are we going to do that? Moshe had prophecy. It made it a little easier for him to be righteous. He saw H-Shem, whatever that means. Panim el panim. Right? He was an Eved H-Shem. Are we supposed to do that too? Are we supposed to be on his level? Are we supposed to be as spiritually great as Moshe? How can we explain the Rambam statement? This is Rav Elchanan's question. So Torah basically calls Moshe Rabbeinu an Eved Hashem, a servant of Hashem. Radak, he quotes the Radak here, Bereish Yoshua, in the beginning of this Sefer Yoshua, he defines Eved, a servant, a little bit differently than you might expect. He says a servant or a slave, whatever you want to call an Eved, is somebody who has no property rights, who has no right of ownership. That's the halacha of an Eved. That's how Moshe was an Eved. Moshe was an Eved because his everything, his desires, his wants, his needs, his energies, his senses, his intellect, his psychology, everything was focused on not him. He wasn't thinking about him. What does Hashem want from me? What can I do for Hashem? Total dedication. He's an Eved Hashem. Zuhi madrigato shel Moshe Rabbeinu. That is the madriga of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he continues, V'av shebavada yafilu im yavod adam b'chol kofotav alafim shana v'lo yagia ad karsolav shel Moshe Rabbeinu. So if somebody works and devotes his entire life and doesn't reach the level of Moshe Rabbeinu at all, hainu p'nei shelo nitla l'shum adam kocho v'inato shel Moshe Rabbeinu aval b'shvil zeh lo nigra klum ma'archo shel adam pashut sheha'ani b'korban ani yotze yedei chavato k'mo asher b'korban asher. The point isn't that you didn't do what Moshe did. The point is you were able to do what you were supposed to do with complete dedication. Just like he says, just like a korban, just like a poor person who brings a korban gets the same reward as a rich person who brings a rich person's korban, because a poor person can't bring a rich person's korban. We can't do what Moshe did. We aren't given that opportunity. No, Hashem is not going to give us the burning bush and ask us to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. That's done. That movie's been made. The sequel now is your life. And in your life, what you're being asked to do, if you do it with total dedication, you can be on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, says Rav Elchanan. That's how he explains the Rambam. It's a powerful message. That's it. And this ties everything that we've been saying together. All of this Torah study, all of this off the derech, on the derech, this, that, all of the perversion, the disgustingnesses of this world. If we look at it that way, it's all because people aren't dedicating their kochot, all of their strengths to dedicate to Hashem. If they did, if they were an Eved Hashem, you could be an Eved Hashem like Moshe Rabbeinu was. You won't do what he did because it's been done. right? Don't be a copycat, but you can do what you do on the same level that Moshe did what he did. And then you're like Moshe Rabbeinu. But what does that require? It requires a lot of things. But to be a real Eved Hashem, you need to learn Torah. You need to learn HaBracha. You need to learn Thursday night. You need to learn Bereshit. Right? You need to keep with the Parsha. This year, try to dedicate yourselves to learning the Parsha. Doesn't have to be this class, could be this class, I don't mind. But there are other people giving Torah, and learn the Parsha, learn Shnai Mikra Echad Targum. I'm going to talk about that again as I do every year. I'm going to mention that again tomorrow night. Very important mitzvah, not mitzvah Torah study. It's a separate mitzvah. You're supposed to learn the Parsha, and that's what we do. Thank you for coming, and good moed. Enjoy the rest of your Hoshana Rabbah, and enjoy the rest of the coming beautiful year that we're going to have, 5782. All right, I'm going to stop the. Thank you. Stopping the live feed and the recording.